Shabarimala Sri Ayappan. Accompanied by his minister, the Pandalam king sets out to kill the wild animals attacking his subjects. The sound of a baby's weeping reached his ears. Upon finding the infant, and lacking children himself, he took the child to his palace. The king returned to his palace, the small, fragile bundle held protectively in his arms. With a hushed reverence, he presented the infant to his queen, a silent offering that held the promise of long-awaited joy. They named him Manikandan. Beneath the surface of the royal joy, a murmur of discontent began to ripple through the palace. Not all hearts were warmed by the arrival of the foundling. Whispers slithered through the corridors, questioning the wisdom of embracing a child of unknown origin. Instead of reassurance, the royal guru's pronouncement was an enigma. Let us wait and see. This ambiguous counsel did nothing to allay the fears of those who questioned the child's arrival. In fact, it cast a long shadow of doubt, even upon the guru himself. Overwhelmed with joy, the queen poured all her love into caring for the baby. Time slipped by, marked by the unwavering tenderness of her devotion. Just as the palace had begun to resonate with the innocent laughter of Manikandan, a new wave of anticipation washed over the royal chambers. The queen, to the joyous astonishment of the king, found herself with child. The news of a coming heir did nothing to dislodge the minister's firm conviction that the king's adoption was a profound error in judgment. The queen's labor culminated in a joyous event, the arrival of a baby boy. With unwavering fairness, the king of Pandalam showed no distinction between his two sons, showering both Manikandan and the newborn prince with equal measures of love and attention. The king, with paternal foresight, entrusted both princes to the wisdom of the guru. However, a shadow of apprehension flickered in the guru's eyes, for the origins of Manikandan remained an enigma. The minister says not to teach Manikandan anything and just have him around. To the astonishment of the guru and the other students, a voice from beyond the classroom began to articulate profound truths. Manikandan, the boy meant to be merely present, effortlessly answered every question, his intelligence a stark contrast to the minister's low expectations. Utter shock gripped the guru. The clarity and depth of Manikandan's unseen answers resonated with a wisdom far beyond his years. He beckoned the boy to join his disciples. Guru's son suffered loss of hearing and vision. He tripped on the uneven ground and injured himself while walking. Manikandan, his spirit moved by the sight of the helpless child, offered a heartfelt plea to the divine. He regained his sight and hearing. The child, his senses newly awakened, turned to his father, the guru, his words tumbling out in amazed disbelief. It was Manikandan. He did something, and now the light is back, and I can hear everything. A book of unknown origin was revealed to the guru in a moment of profound mystery. As he carefully turned its brittle leaves, the saga of Shurpakasaran unfolded, a tale of rigorous devotion undertaken to gain a powerful boon from the divine Shiva. The heavens themselves seemed to part as Shiva finally revealed himself to Shurpakasaran. The boon requested was one of terrifying finality, the power to turn a simple touch upon the forehead into instant, consuming ash. Shiva bestowed the boon, a power that could turn life to ash. Shurpakasaran, intoxicated by his newfound ability, made a fatal error, attempting to touch the divine forehead. In a blink, Shiva was escapes. Shurpakasaran, a being of immense power, found himself utterly undone by the sight of an extraordinarily beautiful woman. His attraction was immediate and all-consuming, a sudden fire that ignited within him. He could do nothing but take her hand and begin to dance, his focus entirely upon her. The dance, which began as an expression of infatuation, became a macabre ballet of deception. When the woman's hand lightly graced her forehead, Shurpakasaran, utterly bewitched, followed suit. The boon he had so audaciously sought turned inward, reducing him to a fine layer of ash upon the very land where he had performed his penance. The beautiful woman who had ensnared Shurpakasaran's senses was not merely immortal. She was Mohini, the enchanting feminine form assumed by the Supreme Lord Vishnu. The divine dance of creation took an unexpected turn as Vishnu revealed himself as Mohini to Shiva. A powerful attraction blossomed within him, a meeting of two fundamental forces of the universe. From this sacred union of spirit, a child was born. The divine confluence that brought this child into being imbued it with a sacred mission. It was destined, from the outset, to be the one who would finally end the reign of the malevolent demon, Mahishi. Narada, the divine sage, spoke with celestial clarity. It was the inviolable command of Brahma, he revealed, that this child of divine parentage should experience life and growth amongst humans for 12 years. After reading the book, Guru understands everything about Manikandan. Then he hears a divine voice stating that this should remain a secret. With the wisdom of the ancient texts now clear in his mind, the Guru held Manikandan close. Endowed with a divine spark and guided by the Guru's wisdom, Manikandan grew to become no ordinary warrior. With their years of tutelage under the Guru complete, Manikandan and his younger brother Rajarajan returned to the grand palace of Pandalam. Their arrival was marked by a formal welcome, befitting the princes of the realm. Guru says the king that both Manikandan and Rajarajan are very bright and excellent students. The queen's days were often brightened by the loyal servants' enthusiastic reports of Manikandan's wisdom and valor. The minister sought leave to present himself before the queen, asking for her gracious permission to address her. Before the queen, the minister voiced his strong belief that her biological son was being wronged by not being named the successor of the king. However, the queen met his arguments with a passionate and decisive refusal. In the royal court, Manikandan's wisdom served as a guiding light to the king. With grave urgency etched on his face, a minister brought forth a pressing issue. The notorious robber Vavor was not only at large but had now turned his avaricious gaze upon the very people of Pandalam. The king was anxious about Vavor's threat, as his soldiers failed to catch him. A resolute glint in his eyes, Manikandan offered to confront the terror that was Vavor. But the king's heart clenched with worry. In his eyes, Manikandan was still the boy. Manikandan's passionate arguments, perhaps echoing with an inner strength the king had not fully recognized, finally overcame the monarch's doubts. With permission granted, Rajarajan eagerly declared his unwavering desire to join his brother. Manikandan firmly refused. He instructed his younger brother to remain behind. Only if he failed to return within 8 days should Rajarajan venture out to find him. Manikandan reached a place which was supposed to be Vavor's sanctuary. There, he was met by Vavor's men, a rough bunch who tried to intimidate him with their fierce looks and harsh words. Vavor himself emerged, his presence radiating a dangerous authority. His gaze fixed intently on Manikandan, he cut through the tension with a direct, challenging question: "Have you come seeking a fight?" In response to Vavor's challenge, Manikandan offered a starkly different purpose for his arrival. He declared his journey there was one of peace, not aggression, his tone resolute. The reality of Vavor's dwelling, a small, unassuming hut nestled perhaps, stood in stark contrast to Manikandan's expectations of a lavish hideout. His surprise evident, Manikandan then questioned Vavor about the fate of his ill-gotten gains. Vavor readily admitted to acts of violence and theft, but he justified his actions by claiming his victims were only the wicked. This viewpoint ignited a discussion with Manikandan, delving into the complex and subjective nature of right and wrong. Vavor led Manikandan to a hidden community of impoverished individuals whom he sheltered and sustained. Manikandan brought Vavor before the king of Pandalam. There, humbled and contrite, Vavor offered a heartfelt apology to the monarch, vowing to forever forsake the path of violence and bloodshed that had stained his past. The king made his decree. Manikandan, the wise and valiant, was henceforth declared the crown prince, the heir apparent to the throne of their beloved state. The minister, his face contorted with a long-held resentment towards Manikandan, seethed inwardly at the king's decree. In the shadowed corners of the palace, he swore a bitter oath. He would never allow Manikandan to sit upon the throne of their land. The minister approached the king, hoping to sway him from his chosen course regarding Manikandan's succession. But the king silenced the minister, stating unequivocally that he sought no one's advice in this crucial decision. The king and queen spoke in hushed tones, the minister's audacious attempt to sway the king's decision regarding Manikandan hanging heavy in the air. A subtle furrow creased the queen's brow, a hint of frustration. The minister, his face betraying little of his inner turmoil, approached the queen. His declaration was unexpected and significant. He stated his plan to relinquish his responsibilities as a minister of the state. The queen's eyes widened in genuine surprise at the minister's unexpected announcement. She pressed him for the cause, and his reply was laced with the bitterness of his prejudice. It would be a grave injustice, he asserted, should Manikandan ever ascend to the throne of their beloved state. Stooping to the lowest depths of deceit, the minister unveiled a shocking and baseless accusation to the queen. He alleged that Manikandan's true parentage lay with a member of a band of thieves. To lend credence to this outrageous fabrication, he falsely linked Vavor to this supposed criminal fraternity, claiming their shared past explained their association. The minister's conspiracy deepened, his words revealing a treacherous plot to seize control of the very Pandalam state itself, undermining the rightful lineage. The queen, listening in horrified disbelief. The minister's cunning words escalated into a horrifying declaration. Their takeover of Pandalam would be followed by the king's assassination. The queen was about to break free and alert the king to the imminent danger. The minister, seizing the moment, dissuaded the queen from her immediate impulse, painting a picture of the king's disbelief and potential dismissal of her warning. He advocated for a more carefully orchestrated plan. Under the guise of urgent need, the minister's servant approached the royal physician, and he requested a potent poison, one capable of ending a life. The physician complied, handing over the lethal substance. With a sinister cunning, the minister laced Manikandan's milk with the lethal poison. Unsuspecting of the lethal secret within his drink, Manikandan finished the milk. Driven by remorse, the physician revealed his treacherous act to his wife. His wife, her voice ringing with resolve, swore to confront the darkness and retrieve the poison. As the first light of dawn filtered into Manikondan's chambers, the attending servants grew concerned when the usually early rising prince remained in a deep and unresponsive slumber. The physician's fear materialized in the form of royal soldiers at his door, their command to appear before the king ringing in his ears. In a desperate attempt to escape punishment, he declared himself too sick to move. With urgent tones, the king's soldiers conveyed the dire news: Prince Manikondan was gravely unwell. They emphasized the immense reward the king would bestow upon the physician if he could successfully restore the young prince to health. Compelled by the soldiers' words and the enticing promise of royal favor, the physician, despite his earlier feigned illness, prepared himself to travel. Unable to bear the uncertainty, the king made a public announcement, declaring that a generous bounty of presents awaited anyone who could cure their cherished son. By that time, a sage appeared, his demeanor commanding respect. He announced his ability to heal the young prince, his request for privacy a firm instruction for all to withdraw. The sage was none other than Lord Shiva himself. With a touch of his divine grace, he healed the seemingly lifeless Manikondan, and then, as suddenly as he had appeared, vanished from their sight. A wave of profound relief and overwhelming joy washed over the king and queen. The truth dawned on the physician with horrifying clarity that the intended victim of his poison was none other than Manikondan himself. A desperate plan for immediate flight from the country began to form in his mind. But they were informed that Prince Manikondan was perfectly healthy. Undeterred by the miraculous turn of events, the minister sought out the queen once more. His words, dripping with renewed malice, painted Manikondan not as a victim, but as a practitioner of dark arts, falsely claiming the prince was now plotting the king's demise through black magic. Consumed by a primal need to safeguard her husband, the queen's determination hardened. The minister presented a chillingly simple solution. The only way to ensure the king's safety was to eliminate Manikondan. The queen, however, recoiled in horror at such a brutal proposition. Having his initial demand for bloodshed rejected, the minister pivoted, suggesting a different course of action. Manikondan should be exiled, forced to leave the land of Pandalam. Like a serpent coiling to strike, the minister drew the queen into a private conversation, his voice a low hiss as he revealed the details of a wicked plan he had secretly devised. The next morning unfolded with a new layer of concern as the queen lay seemingly unwell. The king, his relief from the previous day replaced by fresh anxiety, turned to the physician. With a calculated air, the physician, complicit in the minister's plan, announced that only fresh tiger milk could cure the queen's feigned illness. The king, his face paling at the absurdity and unattainability of such a demand. With a voice dripping with false concern, the minister informed Manikondan of the queen's plight. He then presented the impossible solution. Fresh tiger milk was the only thing that could save her life in there. Without hesitation, Manikondan declared his intention to bring the milk, then turned to the king, earnestly requesting his permission. Without a moment's hesitation, the king's voice rang out, his refusal firm and final. But then, the revered guru, whose wisdom and knowledge of Manikondan were profound, stepped forward and earnestly implored the king to grant the young prince permission for his quest. The king, his worry still evident, finally nodded his assent, guided by the guru's wisdom. Manikondan, demonstrating his deep respect and love, sought the queen's blessings before his departure on the arduous journey. Though duty and suspicion had clouded her judgment, a genuine sorrow touched the queen as Manikondan took his leave. With youthful eagerness, the younger prince expressed his desire to join Manikondan's dangerous journey. But Manikondan, demonstrating a mature sense of duty, asked his brother to stay by their mother's side and care for her. With a heavy heart, the king offered prayer, his thoughts and hopes soaring towards the heavens for Manikondan's safety on his perilous journey through the forests. As Manikondan prepared to venture into the wilds, a surprising intervention occurred. Vavor stepped forward, offering his unwavering support to the young prince. Though touched by Vavor's loyalty, Manikondan asserted that the responsibility for the queen's cure rested solely on his shoulders. Having reached the shadowy embrace of the forest, Manikondan commenced his solitary quest. Manikondan tracked a leopard. The creature led him to a hidden palace, a sight that surprised him amidst the wilderness. Then, in a moment that defied reality, the leopard morphed into a woman of striking allure. Showing unexpected hospitality in the secluded palace, the woman provided food for the weary Manikondan. With a soft voice, she suggested he stay the night and resume his search for the tiger milk on the morrow in the wilderness. Amidst the strange enchantment of their meeting, the woman made an unexpected offer of matrimony. Manikondan gently deflected her proposal, explaining his current priorities lay elsewhere. She lunged at Manikondan in a physical attack. Reacting swiftly, he pushed her back. Rejection twisted the woman's allure into a terrifying demonic visage. Mahishi stood revealed in all her monstrous glory. But the sight of Manikondan, bowstring taut and arrow nocked, spurred a primal fear, and the demon fled. In pursuit of Mahishi, Manikondan confronted her in a fierce fight that ended with her death at his hands. With Mahishi's demise, her spirit shed its demonic form, emerging as a beautiful woman who then informed Manikandan about the curse that had befallen her. With her plea to be his wife, the beautiful woman faced Manikandan's firm declaration that he had no desire for domesticity. In a private discussion, the queen and physicians reviewed the progress of their plan, while the younger prince secretly listened in. The physician, facing the younger prince's threats, was compelled to disclose the entire truth. Upon confronting the queen, he interrogated her about her intentions, pointedly asking how she could have sent Manikandan to his death. Announcing his search for his brother, he ventured into the dense forest. Lord Indra revealed himself to Manikandan, having taken the form of a tiger, and asked Manikandan to lead him to the palace. Manikandan made his way to the palace, seated majestically on the tiger. Everyone in the palace runs off in fear. The king was overcome with happiness and embraced him warmly. The physician's confession was followed by the queen's arrival and subsequent apology to the king, where she placed the blame for the plan squarely on the minister. The king declared she deserved a cruel death. The queen agreed, stating she truly deserved it and suggested letting the tiger eat her. Manikandan intervened, stating the tiger would not harm her, and then instructed the animal to go back. Manikandan suggested that the hand of fate was behind everything, implying that no individual bore responsibility for the events. Following Manikandan's words, the king decided to spare everyone in the palace. With a formal pronouncement, the king declared that Manikandan would forthwith be the ruler of the kingdom. Manikandan stated his preference for his younger brother to be the next king, declining the throne for himself. The guru's words carried weight as he agreed, stating that Manikandan's life was meant for a different, higher purpose. The veil of illusion lifted, and as everyone recognized the divine presence, they fell prostrate at his sacred feet. The divine presence abruptly disappeared. The king, heartbroken, cried out in anguish, longing for his son. Then, a voice from the heavens declared that Manikandan's divine presence could be found as Lord Ayyappan in the sacred abode of Sabarimala. Humbled by the divine revelation, they all bowed in worship. Vavor met Manikandan and, recognizing his divinity, expressed his deep desire to follow his spiritual guidance. Manikandan then revealed his celestial form to Vavor and, in a divine decree, designated Arameli as the sacred abode where Vavor would reside. Having revealed his divine nature, Manikandan now sits as Sri Ayyappan in Sabarimala. Drawn by their unwavering faith, countless devotees make the arduous journey to Sabarimala to behold Sri Ayyappan.